Chests have been a mechanic in Dead by Daylight since the game's launch. However, many players will agree that they have never been anything useful during their entire stay. In fact, many players, myself included, know that in the vast majority of cases, chests are objectively a bad thing to waste your time on, as instead, you could be helping your team or most importantly, repair generators. However, despite this, chests have remained unchanged for ages, with only two notable balance changes happening to them, being one almost 4 years ago as part of their visual upgrade, which changed the animation of chests, making it so that cancelling the search animation no longer made a loud notification and also making them quieter. The other change is happening on the next patch, and it will make chests take 2 seconds less to search. Is that enough to make chests worth searching? Absolutely not, and in this video, I want to propose a complete rework to this mechanic to not only make it attractive for survivors to go for during the match, it will also be an introduction to new mechanics in order to spice the already stale survivor gameplay. First of all, let me explain why chests are currently objectively bad and they need a change. For starters, let's go back in time to understand what purpose chests serve in this game and why the devs balanced them that way. Chests' main function is to be an RNG based second chance at life in order to spice the game up and increase the horror atmosphere of it. Back in the days, in 2016, when DbD was still considered a casual horror experience, being a new player and being injured would give you that tension horror games have, and then you would find a chest and pray to the RNG gods for a medkit to heal yourself up, or even a key in order to escape from the hatch, as the hatch would also spawn before everyone died. This added an element of clutch moments that would be memorable for survivors, as that one time they escaped because they got the necessary item from the chest. It's also why the broken key exists, as that item was purely created for the purpose of finding trash in the chests, making the desperation of the situation even stronger. It's like adding boots on a fishing game. You need bad rolls in order to feel even better when you do get an interesting item. Sometimes the only chest you could open is in the basement, a guaranteed chest spawn in what was considered one of the most dangerous places of the entire map. But maybe that chest had a key, or the medkit you needed. That's the point of chests and their entire game design philosophy, and it worked back in the days. However, nowadays this is clearly not the case. While it's true that you might still get a medkit out of the chests in some clutch moments, which is currently the only reason a player might want to search them, most of the times it is a complete and absolute waste of time that will get your match lost simply because you will get a useless map with no add-ons, a key that most of the times is not good, a toolbox which does not give back the time investment you put on searching a chest, or a flashlight, which is also considered a troll item unless you specifically make your build around it. And this last part is exactly the issue. You can just bring items into the game. Why bother on the RNG of finding a medkit on a chest if you can guarantee a great medkit with add-ons by spawning into the match? In fact, unless you use Ace in the Hole, you cannot get add-ons on your chest items. So objectively speaking, the items from chests absolutely suck on the vast majority of cases. Add-ons are necessary in order to make certain items usable. A brown toolbox from a chest is not the same as a commodious toolbox with charges. Maps can be useful and niche, but you need add-ons and a build centered around it, which is why most of the time getting a map on a chest with no add-ons sucks, and broken keys straight up do not work without add-ons. In fact, there is an entire secondary and actually useful mechanic with keys that is completely gated from chests that most of the player base doesn't even know about. Items nowadays are easy to get compared to the past. Blood webs are cheaper than before. Prestiges no longer remove all of your add-ons and items, and as long as you keep spending blood points on a character you main, you can bring the strongest items every single match. Try it for yourself. Enter a match right now as a killer and you will almost be guaranteed to have 2 or more medkits with styptics or syringes. so why would any survivor bother interacting with a mechanic that makes you lose time 99% of the cases? I certainly don't blame them. And don't get me started on the fact that luck is completely useless for chests. Yeah, the only mechanic that would make sense to make chests better does not work with them, and instead luck only serves a purpose on unhooking situations for yourself. Imagine being a new player and learning this now on my video. It goes completely against logic and makes a lot of luck offerings completely useless unless you do a build around it. So this is where my rework will come into play. My aim is to keep the RNG mechanic that chests provide in order to still have that dopamine hit when you get the necessary item from it. One suggestion I have seen a lot is to make the items survivors bring into the match only accessible by searching chests in-game, but I personally don't like that change. Killers can add offerings to remove chests, survivors will fight for chests too, and it also doesn't give any magic purpose to the basement chest. All this does is make it more annoying for survivors at the start of the match. And I think this video comes at a great moment, because behavior is actively trying to make chests better, but their solution is a small number buff and the classic move of adding perks related to chests in order to fix an inherent gameplay problem, just like they did with Decisive Strike or Unbreakable. I want chests to be good even without bringing a chest build. And finally, before I begin, remember that this video was made to entertain only. I am not a game designer, I am a content creator, and I understand that this video and the contents will basically be impossible to implement, but let a man dream. So this rework is inspired on the Vecna mechanic of treasure chests, where they have unique items that grant passives for survivors during the match, or legendary actives that actually implement new gameplay mechanics. So now, chests will no longer have the basic items found on them. You heard me right, no more keys, toolboxes, flashlights or medkits unless you bring a specific perk to force them out of it, like Pharmacy, Scavenger or Residual Manifest. Detective's Hunch will be reworked to grant you a map, and the Left Behind will now guarantee a key to open the hatch, making them buffed. Chests will now include two different categories of items that are exclusive only to them, and these items cannot be hoarded on your inventory. Instead, they are single use for the match, just like flashbangs are. Each of the new items will have unique effects, which will be okay for casual players since they introduce the UI that tells them exactly what the items will do before picking them up, used on Vecna items, vaccines, or the EMP. The first category of items are the basic ones, items that you will find on the chest the majority of times. They are not meant to be game-changing or give insane effects, and they are more or less meant to replace basic items, but in a more powerful and interesting way to make them different from the items that you can bring into the match, and also interesting for survivors to use. The first item is a replacement of medkits called the Medbag, and serves as the healing item for chests so you can still have clutch healing moments. The Medbag is a single-use item that you can apply on yourself, and instead of being progress based like a medkit, it's activation based, and the survivor will take 8 seconds in order to complete the healing animation and get healed. The difference from a medkit is that this item is faster at the cost of you having to commit 8 seconds to heal, and if you get interrupted, you have to start again. This item also ignores Mangled as a status effect too. This item also has boosted chances of appearing on a chest anytime you search it while injured. The second basic item is the Flare, which replaces flashlights as the blinding item on chests, inspired on Alan Wake. Flashlights are items you have to aim in order to get an effect. Flashbangs are instant and one use only. Flares, on the other hand, are a combination of both. Using the flare will activate it for some seconds, and the survivor will be holding them upwards on their hand. Survivors can run, vault, and interact with pallets while holding the flare. If the killer is looking at the flare, they will get blinded with the same speed as a flashlight. The purpose of the flare is to use it during a chase in order to make it harder for the killer to hit some powers against you, like Huntress Hatchets, Dracula's Flame Pillar, the Deathslinger's Rifle. Killers can just look down or up to avoid it, or bring Lightborn. Survivors can also place the flares on the ground to create an area where the killer will have to look up in order to not get blinded. The third basic item is the Vigo's Compass, and it's a replacement of the maps. Using the compass will make the survivor bring the item up, and after a brief charge, it will reveal a snapshot of the killer's location, as well as a snapshot of the nearest generator to your location. During the endgame, it will instead reveal a snapshot of the exit gates or the hatch in case it's the nearest one to you. The compass will have 3 uses in total. Think of a snapshot as a survivor version of the screaming bubble killers get with Infectious Fright. The fourth item is a tape recorder, and it will be a new type of item focused on deception, inspired by an idea I had for a red herring rework for Zarina Kasir. Using the item will first record the next noises you make. So for example, using it while injured will record the injured noises. Repairing a generator or vaulting a window will record that noise, and so on. Once recorded, press it again to stop the recording, and you are able to place this item on the floor. Once placed, the recorder will play that noise for the killer to hear, and they will have to approach it in order to kick it like they did with the pumpkins. And the final item on the basic category is the Protective Talisman, allowing survivors access to the secondary ability of keys. This item is completely passive and will break the moment the killer sees your aura, and it will instead grant you the effects of distortion. If the killer has no aura reading abilities, you can also use this talisman during a chase to reveal the aura of the killer for 5 seconds, breaking it in the process. As you can see, there is no replacement for toolboxes because I hate giving survivors an item to rush generators. Instead, I want chests to be something survivors search to have items on top of the items they bring into the match. Additionally, once the endgame collapse starts, if you search chests, you're still able to find keys in order to open the hatch, and the chances will be boosted, but only during the endgame after the hatch is closed. This is still a way to help survivors escape by interacting with a chest in the endgame. But just like Vecna, I also want survivors to have some special items that could completely change how a chase works, similar to Vecna's hand or Vecna's eye. However, instead of magic items, let's base it on science. Injections, the second class of chest items and exclusive only to searching chests. So first of all, remove the styptic agent and the syringes as add-ons from the medkits. They are objectively the best items to use in the vast majority of cases and are incredibly strong and game-changing when survivors are good compared to any other item in the game, and add-ons are way too common nowadays. If survivors want the powers of those add-ons back, they better get lucky and find them in a chest, lowering the chances of survivors to rely on clutch items to keep on escape streaks. Injectors will work like Nemesis vaccines, where survivors will play a quick animation in order to inject themselves with the boosts. This mechanic is inspired by the Blighted Serum that survivors get exclusively on Halloween only, and I find it really weird how an interesting mechanic like that is gated only for a limited time. Lore-wise, these are all created by the Blight back when he was still a scientist experimenting on the Putrid Serum. However, these injections were left behind for a reason, as they were still experimental. Using injectors comes with a disadvantage, and that is called the Tremor debuff. After using the injections, the hands of the survivors will start to tremble, making it hard for them to work on basic tasks like healing or repairing. This effect will make it so that skill check speed will increase faster on any actions, basically like being constantly under the effect of colrophobia. This effect will last for some time after using the injectors in order to not make them as overpowered and to compensate for the strength they have during a chase. Using any of the injectors will also make it so that your heartbeat will beat constantly and you stop hearing any chase or terror radius music. Instead, everything will sound muffled, like having the effect of the clown's bottle echo. As of now, I got 3 different injectors, again all focused on chases. The first injector is the Energizing Serum, which is energy based, and it will remove any negative debuffs you have except exposed, at the cost of giving you the Tremor debuff for the longest amount of time out of the rest of injectors. You heard me right, with this item you can use Sprint Burst twice, Lithe, Balance Landing, Head On, it does not matter. This is, of course, inspired on Adrenaline as well as Blood Rush. The second injector is the Concentrated Serum, which is resistance based, and it's basically the same as the Styptic Agent, same exact effects. Endurance in itself is a pretty good effect, so I think it's fair to keep it as something good survivors can find on chests. Remember that now survivors also have to play an animation of injecting themselves, so it won't be as instant as it was before, but it will also be harder to tell that this is the injector they used, as killers will no longer be able to tell by looking at the medkit disappear. The only tell is that survivors, once they have this, they will stop bleeding, so you can look at the ground to tell if the survivor has the endurance status effect. And finally, we have the Distilled Serum, and it's my personal favorite out of the injections. This is a new effect that will temporarily remove all of your scratch marks, grunts of pain, and even loud noises from vaulting for 15 seconds, inspired by Parental Guidance and Lucky Break combined with Cut Loose and Quick and Quiet. Keep in mind that if you're injured, you will still leave blood pools. And as the final feature of the injections, the chances of you finding one is significantly increased on the basement chest. So now, as a survivor, you can actually go to the basement in order to try your luck at getting one of these items for a future chase. And even if you don't, you no longer get trash like a brown toolbox, an add-on-less broken key, or a yellow flashlight. You will actually get still some of the useful items I mentioned before. If any of these sound overpowered and that I am a stinky survivor main, thank you. The point of the injections is to make them very attractive for survivors to find. Remember that these can only be found inside chests and they are purely RNG based. These items are intentionally made to be overpowered, and I tried to be as balanced as I could while still at the same time not making them completely useless. Of course, this chest rework will also have to come with some perk related changes, like with Plunder's Instinct or Ace in the Hole. Hopefully with this rework, chests will finally serve a purpose in every single DbD match. They are still an RNG component as they do not guarantee an instant win, but creating exclusive items for chests will incentivize players to try their luck. Talking about luck, remember how it was completely useless, right? Well, the more luck offerings you put, the more of a chance you have getting an injector from the chests. I personally believe that all the items proposed on this video will bring new gameplay elements for survivors during DbD matches, and the RNG element will also keep the matches from being the same boring ones as before. A bit of gambling never hurt anybody, right? Please let me know in the comments if you think this rework is something that you would be interested in, or if there is any inherent flaw to this concept outside of the fact that it's way too much effort for behavior to put in. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a nice day.